मास्क उतारो जी में आप सबका स्वागत है। गुड मॉर्निंग, गुड इवनिंग, गुड आफ्टरनून, जब भी आप देख रहे हैं। मेरे साथ हैं सैवियो रॉड्रिक्स। हाय सैवियो।
Hi, Payal.
हाउ आर यू?
How are you?
Good, good, good.
I'm good.
Savio has been labeled as a Sangi, as a BJP mole. Uh, Big gaya hai. He takes money for all this, and just because he is fighting against the molestations and rapes happening in the churches, which people know about it, but they're in a denial. So we're going to talk to Savio about Bajinder Singh, who is an Indian evangelical Christian pastor in Punjab. He's got a ministry which is called, what is it called? The Ministry of Church of Glory and Wisdom. And under that thing, what all Bajinder Singh has been doing and how he's got caught and will he be punished? So Savio is going to tell us because Bajinder Singh is very popular among the celebrities, especially Bollywood. Then all the ministers, they take advantage of him because वो जिसको वोट करने को बोलता है लोग उसको वोट करते हैं. So the kind of backing he has, what will be the end result? Because अभी तो lower courts ने ही उसको life imprisonment दिया है for raping a woman from Zirakpur, he lures people by promising them that he'll send them abroad. And especially Punjab, in Punjab, people have this thing for going to London and Canada, UK, jana hai sanu. So he takes advantage of that and what all he's done and how he's changed Punjab. So Savio, tell us everything about Bajinder Singh.
Well, let me firstly state that this gentleman, the people of Punjab who have been following him for several years now, is not exactly a gentleman, as we are learning.
Hmm.
Okay. He just has a garb of a pastor and a prophet and has been, alluring people based on exactly that garb that he's been wearing. Now, it is a reality that within religious institutions across the world, Christian institutions, maybe other religious institutions as well, but I haven't investigated other religious institutions, but investigated within my own faith because I believe it's important to clean your own home before you start to point fingers at others, right?
Hmm.
So when I looked at the issues of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church, sexual abuses within the other denomination of the churches that exist in India and internationally as well, I've realized that while the faith continues to be strong with the believers and the people of the faith, there are some devils, as I call them, and I could term them as Christian devils, that exist within the institutions itself. And these devils do not represent the faith in terms of the truth in that faith, neither do they represent the aspirations of the people towards that faith. What they do, however, represent is a very deviant and a very demonic aspect of that belief system that they have portrayed to the people that are gullible to follow it, right? So, for me, a Pastor Bajinder Singh is an insult to the Christian faith and the teachings of Jesus itself. And the reason why I say so the so Pastor Bajinder Singh is primarily nothing but a representation of the demonic side or the perversion that has been allowed to be percolate in in the matters of the institution of the Christian faith. Now let me be very clear. Bajinder Singh does not belong to the Catholic faith. The Catholic faith is represented by the Vatican, which comes under the Pope. So there has been times, during the Pope's illness, where there have been very, very prominent people who have sort of mocked the illness of the Pope and said, why doesn't Prophet Bajinder or Pastor Bajinder heal him? They're
Hmm.
not the same. The denominations are not the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the crimes can be considered of sexual abuse within the Christian faith institutions to be the same, but the institutions are not the same. They're different. So Pastor Bajinder Singh comes from an institution that is predominantly evangelical in nature and could be a part of the believers network as well, or part of any one of the evangelical networks that have been mushrooming in India for decades.
Yeah, Savio, please explain us what do you mean by that Pastor Bajinder Singh belongs to the evangelical Christian faith. That whole,
So the Christian faith is divided into different denominations. Okay, so you have the Roman Catholic Church, where the faith is around the teachings of Jesus, the Bibles, but the Roman Catholic canon law is the basis of that faith and the professing of that faith. Then you have evangelicals that could be, then you have Protestants, you have Baptists, you have Methodists, you have believers, you have Anglicans. These are different denominations of the
okay,
Christian faith.
okay,
They're not all the Catholic Church,
okay,
right? So while the Catholic Church has its own burden and sin of sexual abuse crimes, which have been reported around the world, you also have these smaller denominations like the evangelicals and the believers who also have such issues plaguing their institution. So Pastor Bajinder comes from one such institution,
okay.
okay, who believes that the message of Jesus has to be taken forward through programs of preaching, healing, deliverance, and various other aspects which are professed in his teachings. Now, if you remember, there was a pastor Punya, based in the south of India,
Yeah.
and this particular pastor was completely derogatory to Bharat Mata. He was completely derogatory to the Hindu faith, and these are things I personally don't subscribe to because I believe the teachings of Jesus were very clear, and it always boiled down to two aspects of what Jesus said in his teachings. That is, one is love God with all your heart and with all your soul, and the other is to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, how do you love God? Nobody's ever seen God, right? What you see of God is his manifestation or
Yeah.
her manifestation, depending on how you look at the entity called God, right? Your manifestations of God are the first manifestation of God that you see are your parents. The second manifestations of God you see are your relatives. Then you see the nature around you, the people around you. These are manifestations of God. So to love God is to love the creation of God.
Mm.
So violating, raping, sexually abusing that very creation of God is in effect the failure of following the path that Jesus laid out for you in the Bible, the biblical teachings itself. And that is where I have a problem. See, the faith is faith. So I never raise questions about the faith because people are entitled to have a faith. Today, tomorrow, somebody might have a faith on a stone, and that stone makes him a better person. So be it.
Yeah.
The
True.
fact is, what is the transformation that happens in you as an individual because of that faith? Now, why is Pastor Bajinder wrong? And why is it that pastors like him are dangerous to the Christian faith? Is because of the acts that they commit of sin. Now, why is it such a grave sin? In fact, it's so beautifully said in this movie where Manoj Bajpayee acts, and it's this case that has been spoken about. I don't remember the name of the movie, but it not a movie, but an OTT series, and and it's this conversation that he talks about between Shiva and Parvati and about Ravan and the sin committed by Ravan. And in that, he states very clearly Manoj Bajpayee's dialogue where he says that why did Ravan commit a big sin or Maha sin as he called it is because if he had abducted Sita in his normal avatar, then it would be considered to be a sin. But he abducted Sita in the avatar of a sadhu.
Mm.
Okay. That is a gore pap, as he calls it. And that's what I believe as well. Because when an individual reposes faith in a pastor or a priest or even a religious leader of any other faith,
Hmm.
right? They are connect to God. And today, in today's world, God or any belief becomes the hope of individuals. Now, think of a particular case that happened in Pennsylvania, where a child was 1 year old, and this child was raped by a priest who was about 45 years of age. Okay. Now, can you tell me what is godly about it? It is a very deviant behavior. And like that, there have been many cases that have happened all over. So the faith doesn't teach you that. Nowhere in the Bible is it written that you have to go and rape somebody or rape a child,
Acha, so now,
right?
Savio, let's come back to Bajinder Singh. Now, Bajinder Singh does those miracle healings. Like he'll say, Yeshu, 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 bolo. और देखो ये लड़का बोल नहीं सकता था आज ये बोल रहा है उसका कैंसर ठीक हो गया now once he's got exposed because of this rape thing got exposed this crime got exposed now people are coming out and saying हमारा कैंसर तो कभी ठीक हुआ ही नहीं था but we were paid money we were given 10 kilos of rice then we were promised certain things then we were promised कि हम लोग को abroad भेजेंगे ये भेजेंगे तो अब तो उसने आधे से ज्यादा पंजाब जैसे 70% ऑफ द पंजाब को तो उसने कन्वर्ट कर दिया इसका इफेक्ट क्या आएगा कि विल पीपल कम बैक टू सनातन धर्म और विच एवर धर्म दे बिलोंग टू सिखिज्म और सम दिस थिंग
No, so I really don't know what would be the impact, Payal. But what I do know, let me put it out as clearly as possible. All religious leaders that talk about healing, that talk about deliverance, somebody would be demonically possessed and then they can pray over that person and that person, the demon will leave away. All that is a matter of debate and a matter of scientific investigation.
या
But the most important thing that is required of a religious leader is not the gifts of God. All these are considered to be gifts, but it is really the fruits that God gives you. What is fruits? Fruits are love, joy, peace, kindness, godliness.
No,
These
no,
are these
I
are
think no,
fruits.
we are deviating from the topic, Savio. I want to know now he's got exposed. So, will it have any impact that we'll talk about Bajinder Singh only? Like, will it have an effect on people? Will people now still believe in him or they'll doubt his credibility? इससे कुछ चेंज होगा कि
I
नहीं होगा
I I think the people who would believe in the faith will continue to believe in the faith. If the people believed in the prophet, then they might have a little bit of confusion. And there will be some people who might believe that the government has just victimized him, even though there
हाँ
is this allegation against him. So I am more interested that people at the end of the day, whether it's Bajinder or anybody, your relationship with God is a personal relationship with God. And when you make God man God, then you're going to have a serious issue in that relationship.
yeah but and Savio he's converted nearly like they say now कितने परसेंट क्रिश्चियंस हो गए हैं पंजाब में स्पेशली ही इज टेकन दिस वीकनेस ऑफ पंजाबी पीपल स्पेशली सरदार जाटसिक्स दैट दे वांट टू गो अब्रॉड सो ही प्रॉमिसेस कि आप क्रिश्चियन बन जाओगे तो आपको कनाडा में एंट्री मिल जाएगी और मिल जाती है कनाडा में एंट्री क्रिश्चियन होने पे एंड देन सेकेंडली ही इज ही इज लुकिंग ही इज टारगेटेड दीज दलित्स मजहबी सिक्स कि उन्होंने उसको टारगेट करा बिकॉज ही सॉ दैट दे आर वनरेबल तो ये इसको किसी ने रोका क्यों नहीं व्हाई डिडंट द गवर्नमेंट स्टॉप हिम नोबडी स्टॉप नो एजेंसी कोई उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं हुई
So
क्यों
so
नहीं
that's
रोकी
there was a very interesting conversation I had with a very senior leader of a Hindu organization several weeks ago, not several months ago, sorry. And we were discussing the issue of conversions. So, what I really asked him, I said, what were the reasons for conversion, say, in a place like Goa 450 years ago? Because Goa was predominantly a Sanatan Dharma,
या
place. And then, of course, the Portuguese came. And before the Portuguese, there were already Christians
mm,
that came in. But there was an aggressive conversion that happened in Goa. My forefathers and ancestors would have been converted as well. You know, the point is this: why did the conversions happen at that time? The conversions happened at that time for reasons either being, again, force, allurement, or a certain amount of coercion, or a certain amount of gifts or allurement, as you would call it, right? So if in 450 years the reasons were the same, today also the reasons are the same. They haven't changed. So the flaw is not essentially in the pastors or people who are doing running the conversion machinery. The fault lines lie in us not to
the
be able to
society.
plug those fault.
Mm,
When we are able to plug those fault lines, the conversions will stop. Now, why is it that many of them go to the marginalized and the tribal? Why is it? And why is it the conversions that happening in that segment seeing major change is because for so many years they have been they have been led to believe that they are marginalized, right? And therefore they are looking at a hope. Tomorrow, Payal, if you and I go as angels of God to them, we will turn to God, turn to be godlike to them as well. So
mm,
what is happening right now with the government of India, because they are having an equitable approach across social strata, you are going to see that there is going to be a reduction in conversions because now people have realized that they don't need to turn to a god man to be able to get those basic necessities that they want, but there is a government that is pro
हाँ.
people.
ओके. आई जस्ट हैव यू लास्ट क्वेश्चन. अब आप मुझे बताओ, इधर ये बजिंदर सिंह के पास में मैंने देखा है दैट सम यादव, देयर इज वन actor Yadav, Chunky Pandey, Sunil Shetty, they've all put a stamp on his miracle healings. And, they put a stamp on, that, he's the ultimate person and agar convert ho rahe ho to hone do. He'll heal you. Or the Govinda's wife, she's also converted. Chunky Pandey's family converted. ये सब convert. आप बताओ कितने पंजाब में मिनिस्टर्स हैं और कई बड़े बड़े लोग हैं जो कन्वर्ट हो गए हैं एंड दे बेनिफिटेड फ्रॉम इट. कई लोग अब्रॉड चले गए, कई चांस की बात होती है, आप इधर कन्वर्ट होते हैं और उधर आपकी कोई मूवी हिट हो जाती है या आप एक इलेक्शन जीत जाते हैं, तो यू रिलेट दिस टू दैट कि ना उससे हुआ है ये. आप बताओ इतनी इनके पास पुल है, पुश है, प्लस क्रिश्चियन वेस्ट में क्रिश्चियन का भी सपोर्ट होगा, इसको क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड का भी सपोर्ट होगा. आपको लगता है ये लोअर कोर्ट में इसको लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट मिली है, ये इसको आगे जाके ये छूटेगा नहीं?
I believe at the end of the day, the merit of the case, which is what has seen the lower court arrive at this judgment. If the people who are fighting the case continue in that same assertiveness, then I believe justice will be seen throughout. Okay, of course, it will be foolish to believe that Bajender will not be using all the power at his disposal to ensure that he comes out of this so-called conundrum that he's got himself into. But I also believe that at the end of the day, that there is justice. And if the merit on which this case stands continues in the same manner in the High Court and the Supreme Court, it will stand the test of the courts.
एंड साथियों, जिस तरीके से आसाराम या राम रहीम और इन सबको जेल हुई है और इतना देयर वाज अ बिग ह्यू एंड क्राई अबाउट इट, एवरीबॉडी वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट इट, ब्लेमिंग द हिंदूज एंड आवर प्रैक्टिसेस एंड हिंदूज को तो मतलब मूवीज में भी यही आता है कि हिंदू के ही जो गॉडमैन है वही रेपिस्ट हैं, वही खराब है, सब बात. You, but either way, Bajinder Singh is concerned. Another question it is. I've said last question, but this I want an answer. आपको लगता है कि बजिंदर सिंह के इसके पूरे the whole saga that happened and whatever the accusation is, life imprisonment and all that, इसको बहुत मीडिया ने दबा दिया है?
Well, I would blame the system that we have around in this country at this point of time, because a crime committed by a Hindu gets the most amount of attention
Yeah.
because we categorize them based on religion. Unfortunately for me, the categorization is based on the allegation of the crime.
Yeah.
So
See,
to me, the
I also
rapist is
think.
a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim. To me, he's a rapist,
Mm.
right? So I will come out in the open, which I have done on the television channels, that Bajender, primarily because of calling himself a pastor, is actually committed a grave sin based on the allegation and based on a conviction that has been accorded to him or given to him. So to me, the people who are following Pastor Bajinder need to be a little bit careful about, the Bible itself says it. And I'm going to tell it to them, to many of the Christians who will listen to it and who follow him, that the Bible itself says that there will be many, many people who will come as the angels of light, the many false prophets. Please learn to discern based on the fruits of the Spirit of God, the fruits of love, kindness, the fruits of not abusing somebody. That is not a right you have. Committing a sexual act on somebody is not an act. It's not a permission given to you by God to do it. You do it because you are sitting in a seat of power and because you have already conditioned that person's mind to think that you are godlike.
Yeah, I think the power
That
and the
is what the
money goes to their head, and that makes them do. They enjoy this power over people, and especially women. Or even I've heard like kids also. They don't even leave the kids. Of sick it is. Thank you so much, Savio.
You're welcome, Payal.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.